Welcome to the special city council meeting. I don't know what else was to say, but we just have one business item. But do we have any public comments on matters not on the agenda? Okay. So the one item is accepting the mayor's resignation and moving forward. And we do have a letter of resignation and all the council that's in the agenda. And there's a problem with that too. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Every copies out letter laying around?
It's on the agenda.
Which is pretty straight to the point.
Much copies. So
Where's the agenda?
but there are more agendas on. I do very many speak.
Oh, I like your comment.
Yeah.
If you want to comment, letter. Yeah, right. It's like, it's pretty sure. So he's off. So, yeah.
Did you get an agenda?
I did my. You find one agenda there? And that's on the other side, John. Well, just
No. It's the one. Okay. This one.
what? No.
Good job.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
And we need to vote on this, right? Yes. Yeah. So, do we have a motion to accept the mayor's resignation?
I'll make a motion that we accept Chuck's resignation.
Scott makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
So is that all you got?
That means
Yeah, that was it. That's all it wrote to us.
No other explanation?
No, sir.
just what he said during the meeting.
Huh. He did have some comments.
Yeah, last meeting, yes, comments.
Did you read them? Oh, I missed a good one now.
Oh, my.
It's a video.
It's on the, yeah, on our last meeting. It's,
I can get that, I can get the notes from that. Okay.
And yeah, and there's YouTube recording.
There's what?
A YouTube recording of the whole meeting. Yeah.
On Facebook.
It's just hard to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the words are hard to make out, but you get the gist.
yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Do we want to just go over what our next steps would be? Just
Yeah. Do you have any letters of interest?
so far we do not. So yeah, we posted it on Facebook. Is that the only place?
Oh no, the post office.
Oh, that's right. You don't have the
bulletin board.
yeah. You don't have the ads around town. So we have it posted for letters of interest. We have 30 days officially from today to fill the position. So
And if it's not
You're the person.
30 days or what? Oh, I mean, I don't know. It's
You sign up for it, you're it.
just not the idea. Yeah. Well, hopefully we get a letter. Yes. So.
You can handle
Thank you.
So yes, the hope is to, or the plan is to, at the next regular meeting to,
it. We have some.
yeah,
Say.
yes, yeah. So do that, because that'll be a little less than 30 days, but at least we'll have everybody together for voting on it and move forward.
We just gotta keep the ship afloat.
Yep.
Keep signing checks.
Yeah.
Yep. She can do that.
Yes, I can. Does anyone have any comments before we adjourn the meeting about that issue? Or on that is not on YouTube. And we don't have to do a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Jamie makes a motion. Do we have a second?
We'll second.
Scott seconds. All in favor? Okay. Next meeting. Special city council meeting number 2. And first item is public comments, matters on the agenda. Does anyone, so do you all see what's on the agenda? It's just one item, discussion of the Dollar General stormwater. So let's dive into it. So what we're hoping is to just understand how this process has happened. The last we heard, I think it was in August, we talked about their stormwater plans, that they were going to go through the DEQ process. So, seems like something else, a different route was taken. So we just need to learn what happened. So Jesse's here to talk about the planning side. Hopefully we
Yeah, what do you got?
can figure it out.
Can you say your name? Yeah, Jesse Hattie, Director of Planning for Lincoln County. And I think if I remember correct, I came to the August meeting perhaps, and then just reminded the council that there was the requirement for stormwater with DEQ. Of course, water and wastewater will be taken care of through municipal services. But there is still that stormwater provision that is met per state law. And then we had gotten some comments. I know we had gotten some questions at the planning office about it. Just to confirm that there was some, I guess confusion or rumors going around that they weren't subject to DEQ. And then Commissioner Hans also got some calls about it. And so I double confirmed with DEQ that yes, that was the requirement. And so, I know Hattie had informed, I know Ward and I've been, kind of regular communicating about it throughout the process. And I know I talked about it as well. I don't know where his comment came from the last meeting. I looked at my phone log. I had one missed call from Chuck. And I have an email where I think it was to Warren where I said, because I called Chuck later that day. It was even in the email I mentioned that I'd call him back. So perhaps he called on a couple of days our county phones were down. But regardless of that, yeah, then there was a bit back and forth, I know, between Warren and myself, and just clarifying the situation. I know at some point there was, hey, they don't think they're subject to the DEQ. Well, that's not correct. And then there was some talk that they had gotten their DEQ approval. That was also not correct. We generally get those approvals sent to the planning office. If not that, the help. So then I checked with DEQ and they said, no, we hadn't even gotten the application for that. Now, perhaps there was some confusion on the developer side of things because there's actually 2 stormwater permits needed. And one is during the construction, that's the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, or the SWIP permit. And that's basically when you're doing earthwork and you're disturbing more than an acre of ground, you got to put up your sediment fences and just ensure mud's not running into the neighbor during construction. And that's very different from the certificate of subdivision approval or the COSA document that the long-term stormwater plan, so your drainage swales or whatever is required for that. So then let's see. So double confirm that was the requirement. I know the engineer for the project he was also kind of going back with DEQ where they were like, yeah, no, you need to get our approval unless the city was to sign off on municipalities facilities exclusion or MFE. Previously in the planning department, we were of the understanding that Troy could not sign off on an MFE. And for various reasons, one, we didn't yet had an engineer on staff. I guess you have a contracted engineer. So that's one of the things that would be required. And then DEQ, I guess, didn't have the growth policy on file, which I guess you do have these things going on. So we weren't sure if they had certain requirements for the growth policy itself. But we had found out that they removed that requirement and never updated their forms. So they did that at the last legislative session. So I think we had last dealt with that with the Henson subdivision about Iron Creek Road. And that's where the Kootenai surveyors are like, oh, no, DEQ says we can get DEQ, so you can't do it. When I look back on emails, yeah, that was 2022, so before the legislative session. And so anyway, so it appears that the city could then sign off on the MFE. So, if as long as your contracted engineer reviews it and stamps it with their PE stamp. So then after quite a bit of back and forth, and then I let Ward know that the city basically has two options. You can either say, hey, and it's at totally your discretion that you can either tell the applicant you have to go to DEQ, have them review your stormwater plans, or you have your engineer review the stormwater plans and the city signs off on it. And so that was kind of the end of it. And Ward, I guess, took it from there. I thought we got it all situated. So again, in terms of comments, I was really confused by mine. We kind of got her down. And, so that was kind of my involvement.
Yeah, so the last time we talked, it was because I wanted to know what this NFE was. Because I'd heard suddenly we needed it. So I called up Drew, the engineer for Dollar General, and I said, what even is this thing? I don't even know what's going on. Because according to what Chuck had called the DEQ, and according to the person he talked to, they were good. Everything was good, Joe. So I said, so what do we need this MFE? What is it for? Who's requesting it? And Drew said it was something that Jesse would like to see. So I said, okay. So I called Jesse, asked him what it was, and that's when he told me, okay, the two options. So I said, sweet, I'll just call this engineering firm. They'll figure it out. So I called them, and Drew said, okay, yeah. He said, this is the last thing they'd like to see if they want us to tie this knot. We're done after this. So I said, okay. I said, hold on, let me call Chuck. So I hung up with him. I got a hold of Chuck on the phone. I explained the whole thing process to him. He said, okay, that sounds good. Let's do it. So Chuck and I were the ones, I guess, that were testing it. And apparently that's all that was needed. So I called Drew back. I said, okay, yeah, let's get the ball rolling. The mayor says, okay, let's do this MFE for him. Then everybody's happy, I thought. So then he says, well, I know the guys at RPA. He said, I understand that's your firm. I said, yes, that's the firm we use. And so he said, well, I know those guys real well. So, we'll get it figured out. So as far as I knew, they took it from there. The Dollar General's paying, they're footing the bill. I mean, there's no cost to the city. This form's done. Everybody's pleased. Life goes on, or so.
Do you know
Well, but then
who gets billed for it?
the Dollar General, we don't.
They will get billed.
Yeah,
Like,
we don't.
it won't go through us.
No, we don't pay resident. This is the way it was explained. So we just had to basically request it to be done. And I thought, okay, well, if that's going to make everybody happy.
So who's liable for this water problem if something goes wrong? Is it the city or is it you guys? Just a question, I don't know. Are you the representative? You're the representative.
I'm the superintendent. That's Scott, by the way. I'm trying to keep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm responsible for.
So say something goes awry with the stormwater
The
problem.
engineer would be.
Our engineer for the city or your engineer?
Could be probably the. That would be a good question, but I would think that probably both of them. Yes.
So we do not have a contract in place with RPA to do this work. We are not identified from that one. We own the ultimate risk, so it is our city engineer.
TJ.
So who is your city engineer?
RPA,
RP.
Robert Pico and Associates.
Yeah, I know, remember. It's what boards you located on?
They're at the helm.
I had that Chuck a number of weeks ago, because we got some problems with field projects. I asked Chuck, he said, you don't have a city engineer. Did you know that?
So we have a city engineer that's doing our wastewater and water for
Yes.
our grants that are coming up. And we've used RPA in the past for specific water projects. And we do not have them on a, we don't have them like on a retainer per se, like they're project specific, task specific.
Yeah.
So to lack of a better explanation.
That's right.
Yeah, they're the ones we use, but we don't have a contract with them.
Yeah. So when I talked to Chris Hayes about this last week, when I said, well, who directed RPA to do this work for the city? And they took it from WWC's conversation with Ward and did the work on their behalf. So in a roundabout way, the stormwater was approved by our city engineer instead of going through the normal DEQ process. Well,
Don't it always have to go through the normal DEQ process?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Don't it always have to go through the DEQ process every time? And Jesse can answer this question, but
Yeah, the requirement is always there in state law. But the MFE can satisfy that requirement for the DEQ.
yeah.
Yeah, so they still then approve that letter once they receive it.
So DEQ still holds the final approval of the stormwater
Yes, they do.
plan,
No matter what our guy says or not.
correct? That's what my understanding was for.
Well, so they're not reviewing it.
They're not reviewing it,
They're
they're
just-
still,
They're just, verifying that, okay, the requirements were met
yes,
for this exemption. Because the engineer, RPA, they put their stamp on
what
it.
they're saying.
And one other detail I found, I was going through my emails today. I did see somewhere in there where Drew mentioned that the applicant would pay for that. I previously hadn't paid attention to that, 'cause it's not relevant at the time, but.
So, Ward, my question is, why, as the mayor and you as the department head, why did you guys decide to go this route where the city would assume liability instead of it being upon?
I didn't know that was city liability. I was just
Right.
told this is the next step, so I took it. Like, I thought I was making everybody happy. Like, okay, we need this MFE form because Jesse would like to see it. As far as Chuck called the head person at the DEQ, and they said no, they are good to go. They've had their, I think, August 8th or something. So they had our agreements in place. But I thought everything was on the up and up. I knew nothing about any liability.
Kind of
Like none.
So just to clarify,
What was this word again?
identified.
Indemnified. I learned a new word today. I've never even heard that. So
So I think when I was talking to Chris Hayes and after I talked to Ward, there was a confusion between the two different processes. Process, the traditional go through DEQ for that normal approval process, or go through the city's engineer to sign off on it. And I think there was a misunderstanding between those two processes, that there's a line between them. I think there was hey, we can do it this way, and our engineer can sign off on it, and WWC will pay for it, but yet DEQ has final approval still on it. That's technically a DEQ process. I think it was just I honestly think this was a complete lack of understanding. Yeah.
No, there's no malice or anything on it.
I don't think so. I just think there was some confusion. I think there was even some confusion at the very beginning, like when I was talking to Jesse trying to sort this out. Well, it's a DEQ process, but it's like, hold on, you have to really dive into the steps and figure out, okay, this is one route, but ultimately it comes
To the same.
It's the same, and the DEQ having final approval of either process. Cause I think I spent probably 2 hours on the phone with Chris Hayes trying to get this figured out. So, and I think I called Jesse 5-6 times, so.
If I could clarify something, we didn't request an MFE. Our sole involvement was to just inform the city on what the requirements are. Especially in light of receiving public concern.
Yeah.
You know, certainly we're always very, cautious when there's, any potential for litigation. We want to make sure everybody stays out of trouble, make sure everybody understands what's required, per state law. But ultimately, and, it's the city's discretion, you know. You can either say, no, we're going to do DEQ, or no, we're fine, we've got the engineer, and they'll sign off on it. That's up to the city, so, it's,
And it was within Chuck's rights to make that decision, from what I understand. It was just confusing for us because it was not the last we knew, it was a different process, so gonna figure it out. Yeah, so I was wondering who would be paying for it, so that,
Who should responsibility?
I mean,
Aaron's paying for it next week, but then he's getting reimbursed.
Mhm.
and not seeing any kind of written agreement, like if we were to be billed for it, if Dollar General would be reimbursing us,
No, it does state in Chris's emails that Dollar General would reimburse,
yeah.
whether it comes through us or through RPA. So I think it's 12 to 35.
But then the liability is important too.
So I can call Chris and talk to him tomorrow about that, so.
Okay.
So the liability, what defines liability?
What
It's
liability
not,
would be
it's
that,
not like we're dealing with nuclear waste here.
liability is just that we ultimately hold the responsibility since it's our engineer who did the work. And we didn't have any kind of contractor, indemnity clause in place, whole harmless agreement, I think it may be called, also don't.
Okay, responsibility in the event of what though?
Flooding my house next door.
Well, okay, but so working with Drew over there on the corner, they're gonna build that up. I mean, we can tell them more about that, like. There won't be any more water going down that hill than there ever was. I mean, it's my understanding, because he's got it to where they're gonna catch everything. It's all going this way, nothing towards your house.
On paper, absolutely, that sounds great, but what happens the first freeze when the downspouts freeze and there's a rainstorm? If there's no curbing, what's gonna keep that water onto your property and not mine? Flooding my crawl space in my house. And as a citizen, I have every right to be concerned. If it was your house, you'd be concerned too.
Well, your insurance company would be concerned.
I mean,
That's regardless.
But if the ground is now built up and it's 3 feet taller than what it was,
Right.
Well, granted,
You
but all ifs aside, I mean, they've gone above and beyond. Like, they didn't have to add the hydrant, they didn't have to do this extra storm thing, they didn't have to do all the stuff they agreed to, but they have. I mean, they have the courtesy fence. I mean, they're kind of going above and beyond. And
I don't think that's above and beyond. I think that's just a courtesy. I don't think that that's going above and beyond not to be rude to your neighbor at doing concrete at 4:30 in the morning. I wouldn't consider that above and beyond.
okay, but still, I mean, they're trying to work with everybody and like with all the liability and responsibility. I mean, it's not like we're getting the chop our hands off. I mean,
I think the most important thing is to just make sure in the future. Yeah,
I'm going to make a decision never again.
well, I mean, just making sure in the future we're not at risk as a city.
So if I have to make a shot from the hip call, if there's a mayor, I'll make sure everybody's on board. I'll make 7 phone calls before.
Well, I mean,
Okay, so
that's.
I mean, I feel like I'm in the hot seat here. I'm sat before. I'm walking sewer game.
No.
Yeah, everybody keeps dragging me in the middle of it. Saying, "Oh, since I'm not here, of course."
But it wasn't, it was it was never an decision to make the decision. He was directed to do this and that's, yeah. So.
Can I ask a question? If we have no, I don't know, zoning, how is the city even involved in all? So I'm just trying to understand.
That's, the city's now involved because our engineering service provided the review for that stormwater prevention plan.
So
Which
what-
is a requirement,
so-
stormwater prevention, prevention plan.
That county, why did it come back to us?
So I think that's where the confusion was, the two different processes of either doing the traditional DEQ approval where the contractor submits all their plans straight to DEQ, or the process of using a city's engineer, you know, like RPA to have RPA do the review. RPA did the review, I think, in like less than a week's time. DEQ approval probably 4 to 6 months.
It was already approved.
So
That's not correct.
It was approved last week.
Well, the MFE letter.
Yeah, the MFE letter.
Right. They did not provide,
Right.
they didn't do
But
the.
if you do a traditional DEQ approval process, takes 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 months.
Yes, it does.
So this was a faster way to do it.
Well, the project was already completed even before approval took place.
This permit has to do with constructional.
Correct.
So-
But I'm saying that the retention pond was completed prior to any approval from any entity.
I don't know what the timeline is versus that. I didn't dive that deep into when RPA submitted what to DEQ versus when something was done on the job site or anything else like that. So I don't know the answer to that. I can't answer that, so. But I think the most important thing is just from moving forward is just when we engage contractors, engineers, anything on other people's behalf, is that everybody's kind of aware of it and we all understand the risk that is being put upon the city, so.
If I could just clarify one more thing too, I don't think that, going forward that the stormwater plan that was approved, if it turns out that it's not working correctly or wasn't designed correctly, I don't know if that falls entirely on the engineer. It's still ultimately the landowner responsibility to control their stormwater on their property. So, because people get these approvals all the time, they do other things and for landscaping or construction that we're anticipating that it changes the landscape. And that's maybe something that legal will be clarified, but I mean, as you understand that as well, it's still the landowner's responsibility to.
Yes,
Bottom
I
line.
agree with that 100%. I mean, you can't put your water on a public street. You can't put your water on your neighbors. I mean, that's.
It's also designed to a certain event, not a 1 in 500 year event. There's the average miles, so.
They design retention pond for a certain amount for the asphalt, the roof, all of that.
I think it's probably like a 1 in 100 year event.
It's 100 years.
100 year event, and so. I've been on enough construction job sites in the last 20 years to see that we have a 1 in 500 event almost every year. So, and every erosion control measures blown out, so.
Anyway, for what it's worth to everybody, I did the best I could. I apologize. I didn't mean to cause such a storm.
I think to answer your question too, this isn't a zoning issue, so it's like commercial construction projects have to do certain requirements from the state.
Right, what I'm trying to say is, how did the city, when it seems like the county is the one that's supposed to be making sure all of that's going on.
Mhm.
That's where how is
Just because
the
they're
state
ignorant, so
getting involved in all of this?
I mean, it's kind of like we have a liquor license or a distilling license with the state. That's who we have to deal with, but it's still gonna be approved by the city. Even if it doesn't have anything to do with the city, and it's not a city zoning issue or anything like that. So do you wanna have anything else to add to that?
You still have your city attorney, right?
We have a city attorney, yeah. Mhm.
That's one thing I'll just add in there that, county, so these sorts of requirements are the responsibility of the local government, which in this case would be the city of Troy. Uh, County, we don't have a current interlocal agreement with the city. But I think it was done like 2010. It seems like a lot of the provisions and things nobody's been kept up on it for quite some years. So I know the commissioners at some point touch base and reestablish that if Troy, would still like the county to assist, in subdivision or permitting questions or what have you, but what we've just been still just doing it, as a courtesy until, they can get those agreements figured out. Kind of in the same boat with Eureka as well. And then, but with Libby, we've cut ties completely. They now have their own contracted planner. But that's a very different beast. They have, zoning, they have building permits. It's a lot of extra layers of things to understand. And, up until 6 months ago, it was a one-man show and we were, completely swamped, still are. So, but we do now have an assistant planner. So we're slowly seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I think. So anyways, yeah, if the city is still interested in reestablish that something officially, just lose that document.
Yeah, that would be good. So TJ, you'll call.
Yeah, I'll call
Chris.
Chris.
Yeah. Liability issue.
Come if he wants paid. Like some indemnity.
Yeah.
Can you say it 3 times really?
Does anyone else have any, if we're ready to move on, does anyone have any comments on matters not on the agenda?
Do we need to prepare the meeting tomorrow? What day?
Do you want?
Oh, yeah,
Training.
training, just a reminder, yeah, and I emailed the packets that he's gonna be teaching from, so. It's a really great opportunity for us, especially when we're not having to pay for it. He is a specialist in his field, so.
And that's on Zoom as well.
It is, yeah, we don't have to go to Lizzie, but if you want to. Go to what is it, yeah, we'll get some free education.
Yeah, he's a great resource.
There's something else too, but I just think of us. So.
Warren, so you mentioned last meeting about the thing we got. The water that leaves, after the
Violation.
yeah, the
The-
violation.
Oh, yeah, we had, so in August, we had just a little bit of an overage on our TSS for the wastewater. And it was just there's extra turbidity in the water, which means they look at it and they see stuff floating basically. And it was because we had the warm temperatures and the outages, the
Oh, yeah.
functioning like they should. We had an algae bloom.
So that's
all. it was.
not a continuing issue. It's just
No, and that was resolved all I had to do, as soon as we got the violation letter, because I didn't even know we had a violation until actually I was dealing with this stuff that I found out that, well, we can't prove this because you guys got this violation. And I'm like, what violation? So then finally, I think I've got it October 12th was when we received a letter saying we had a violation. And all I
August? Wow.
yeah, and so then all I had to do was just send an email explaining that, hey, we had some outages, one weather, TSS was high. It's a normal thing. And that cleared it. So, and actually, Drew, did you get that email I sent you from Drew? Saying actually, he said the DEQ has cleared us of our violations and
Yeah.
everything. So actually,
Oh,
like
okay.
tomorrow, this MFE
Oh,
thing is supposed
good.
to be done. So,
Okay.
but yeah.
And part of that, just to add to that, is the sewer upgrade. We'll go in and fix those blowers that have been broken for 20 years.
Yeah,
That aerates the pond and keeps it oxygenated, keeps the allergy bloom down.
you know,
And then the headworks building takes the solids out, so there's less solids going into the pond. So,
Yep.
so that'll help out dramatically.
Yeah.
It'll be the fun place to be, the solids building.
I keep giving Travis grief about building a 2-story house so he can stand out there and smell.
Oh.
Have your morning coffee and a whiff of that.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
To do the next motion, with a second? Seconds, all in favor? Wow, thank you, everyone.